welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Jessie. I do bookish, lifestyle, and bullet journal content here on YouTube. In today's video, I have my Orillium Academy Autumn Equinox TBR. That's a mouthful. So just a little prefix before we get into the actual reads. This Readathon was created by G over at Book Roast. She's created everything from places with backstories, the terrain, creatures, as well as races of people, elementals, elves, and so on and so forth. You get to create your character, choosing their name, their background, where they're from, what they like to do. The first installment of this readathon was your journey to the Orillium Academy, where you can hone and decide what job you're going to have in the future. The second installment of this readathon was your test once you got to the academy to see what order you would be sorted into. I personally got Order of the Crescent. Each order has their own way of doing things, so you got to read and choose your conduit, and a few other things as well. The next installment of this, I guess you could say, was figuring out and taking your first semester, I guess you could say, of your schooling to find out what job you wanted or what job your character wanted. Now we are in the autumn equinox, more specific to your job. We have a bunch of different prompts here. I have 5 subjects I need to take. There's ordinary, qualified, and distinguished. You don't need to read all 3 prompts for each subject, but I'm choosing to hopefully read all of them. And that leaves me with 15 books total. So without further ado, let's dive into these 15 books. So I ended up writing these in alphabetical order. So we're going to start with animal studies, and I only need an ordinary. But we have Study Familiars, a book with familiars or animal companions. I chose The Novice by Taran Matharu, which is the first book in the Summoner series, which we follow Fletcher, who is a blacksmith's apprentice, and he finds out that he can summon demons. Demon summoners are quite, not super rare, but rare enough within this world, and they are sent to an academy to hone their summoning abilities to fight against the orcs, I believe. Ogres? Orcs? And yeah, we have different races, such as elves, the orcs, humans, goblins, dwarves, a bunch of different races. We also have different mythical creatures. The demons that you summon, they're your familiars. The second is the qualified level, and it is Familiar Raven. Read a book with Raven on the cover. I've chosen an enchantment of ravens by Margaret Rogerson. The base premise, which is our main character, Isabel, has an enchantment, which is a talent more superior than anybody else in the world. She has the ability to paint portraits amazingly. In this world, we also have the Fae, and they pride themselves on not having emotions. We have our other character, Rook, who is, I believe, a royal within this world. I don't really remember. I know he's higher up at hierarchy. He hires her to have his portrait painted. At the revealing of this portrait, everybody is shocked to see vulnerability painted into his eyes. Rook then sets out to retrieve Isabel to stand trial for her crimes, but as vulnerability is a weakness, he is also hunted by other beings and forces within this world. Then the last prompt for animal studies is Familiar Hare. Read a book with a rabbit on the cover. I have 2 options for this. They're both children reads, but I have not read them before or had them read to me. So I've never read The Velveteen Rabbit, and I've never read Tales of Peter Rabbit. So I'm going to choose one of those to read. I just don't know which one yet. Moving on to the next subject. Astronomy. The first is Livia. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Read a book with the letter L in the title. I have chosen to go with The Lost Hero by Rick Riordan, the first book in the Heroes of Olympus series. We follow a guy named Jason who wakes up and knows nothing about his life other than his name. He wakes up on a bus with a bunch of kids and has no idea why he's there or anything. Something happens on this field trip that they're going on, and some random girl named Annabeth shows up, and she's looking for her boyfriend Percy. They're gonna find this guy named Percy, and she's gonna help him retrieve his memories. I'm so excited. The next prompt is Ravensbourne, and it is read a book with archers or rangers. I have chosen The Triumphant by Leslie Livingston. This is the third book in the Valiant trilogy. It is so good. I read the first two and they're amazing. I have this as an audiobook and I'm so excited to read it. So I'm not going to hold it up. In the first book, Valiant, we follow our main character who is the daughter of a Celtic king. She had an older sister who left home to become a gladiator and ended up becoming the mortal enemy of Julius Caesar. She wants to follow in her sister's footsteps, and when she leaves home, she ends up getting captured and sold as a slave to none other than Julius Caesar himself. She now has to fight in the arena to win her freedom, but also stay alive within training and with the other women in this Lotus. It is so good. The twists and turns and the plot, hands down amazing. If you know anything about me, you know that I love that era. It gets my heart every time. The next prompt is Meow, I believe is how you pronounce it, and it is read a book with multiple people on the cover. I'm taking this as more than one person. I'm going to be reading Wicked Night by Tracy Lorraine. This book follows our main character, Stella, who has moved back to the UK, I believe, with her father. She starts this new school, and for some reason, the popular guy out of this trio who run the school hates her ever-living guts, and she has no idea why. We also get his perspective, and apparently something happened to his family which left him an orphan. She somehow has something to do with it. No idea what it is, but I'm excited to find out. I don't know if I also mentioned, so animal studies I needed ordinary, astronomy I needed ordinary, and the next subject is elemental studies, which I need a distinguished. So I need to read all three prompts. The first being element of water, start a book with a drink. So this is the first year that G has also included, I believe there's two prompts that are like action prompts, not reading prompts. So you can take the two prompts, I'll get to the other one later obviously. I'm sure there are other within other subjects, but I only have two within my have to read. I'm just gonna start a drink with one of these random books and I will write that in the box for that of whatever one I started. The next prompt is Wind Redirection. Point out a random book and choose one adjacent to this. So I did this. I did not cheat, I promise. I ended up choosing Mastered, which is the first book in the Enforcers trilogy by Maya Banks. It is an adult romance novel, and we follow one of our main characters. He owns a club, kind of in this mafia / gang-esque situation. In walks this beautiful woman he can't take his eyes off of. Some random dude comes up to her, goes to grab her, and all hell breaks loose. Eventually, she's standing in front of him in his office. We also follow our female main character. Hasn't had the best life. Her dad got sick when she was very young and she moved away to get a better job. She ended up being a I think a bartender or a waitress at this bar. She lives with 2 or 3 other girls in this shitty apartment in a shitty part of town in this shitty building. She had a boyfriend. Her friends convince her to go out. Her friends has this VIP pass to get into this really high up club. She knows that her ex-boyfriend is going to be there, and she's like, show him what he lost. Show him what he's missing, that he was dumb and let go. So she does. They doll her up, dress, makeup, hair, shoes, the whole shebang. And when she gets there, she goes to order herself a drink. And her ex ends up seeing her and comes over, kind of tries to make a fool out of her. She's not taking it, and she says something back, and he goes to grab her. Again, all hell breaks loose. This time, she's standing in the owner's office. The third prompt for elemental studies is wave manipulation. Read a book that's set at sea. I'm gonna go with The Son of Neptune by Rick Riordan, the second book in the Heroes of Olympus series. I'm not gonna go over it as I already talked about it. Fourth subject is restoration, and I need a qualified. For the first one is object restoration. Read a book with a single object as the focus on the cover. I decided to go with Dominated, which is the second book in the Enforcer series by Maya Banks. Again, I'm not going to go over it as I just explained Mastered. Second prompt is Enchanted Scroll Mending. Read one of the oldest books on your TBR. The oldest book on my TBR, I think, has to be Shatter Me. I did read this years and years ago, but I don't remember anything that happens. I'm excited to find out, and hopefully the hype around this series is... Our next prompt is Urgent Battle Care. Read a book in 1 or 2 sittings. This is the second action prompt. I don't think you have to have another book specifically to read in 1 or 2 sittings. I think you can choose any of them. So I'll get to it when I get to it. And then moving on to our last subject, we have shapeshifting, and I only need an ordinary for this one, which is The Formation of Wings. Read a book with wings on the cover. I'm deciding to go with Flock by Kate Stewart, which is the first book in the Ravenhood trilogy. I have such love for this trilogy. If you have watched any of my videos before this, reading wise, you'll know that I love this series. I listened to it on Audible, this is not sponsored, and I fell in love, so I bought them physically to read so I could annotate them, and I think this is the perfect time to start that journey all over again, which was a freaking roller coaster if you ask me. I'm gonna bawl my eyes out. But I am very, very excited to dive back into this world. Put all of my thoughts to paper and sticky note the shit out of this book, because this whole thing's gonna have stuff in it as well as the other 2. So I'm very excited to start reading this again. The next prompt is instant momentary mimicry. I don't know how to pronounce that. But the prompt is read a book released this year. I went back and forth on this quite a bit, but the book I wanted for this prompt isn't going to be out until August 30th, and I don't want to push my luck. So I decided to go with Gallows Bridge by Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valentini, which is the 5th book in the Harley Quinn Crew series. I have a love-hate relationship with this series. It is very repetitive. So we follow Rogue, who had to leave her hometown. She ended up struggling for quite a while, and then she met her boyfriend, or ex-boyfriend, who ends up killing her and burying her for her to wake up and dig herself out of this grave, only to realize he buried her where it all started, in her hometown. She has nowhere else to go, so she ends up going back to the childhood friend's house that made her leave in the first place. They betrayed her, and she has not forgiven them 10 years later. The amount of times that this is brought up is sickening. And you would think that after 5 books, we would have, forgiven, maybe not forget, but forgiven our characters and kind of heal from the situation. Nope, it's still brought up. It's not in every chapter anymore, I don't think. But it's still there. All the time. As soon as you're like, oh, okay. Nope, it's there. Anyways, it's just very hard, and I do overlook it most of the time because the actual plot of the books are good, and I love where they're going with the story. And Rogue is such a badass, and she handles her shit, but the other stuff is so annoying. We also have our male main characters who are these friends who betrayed her. We have Fox, who is creepily obsessive with her. We have Chase, who is an asshole to her. Like the first book, like total dick smack, is so mean, but still loves her. We have, what's the other guy? JJ is the nicest out of all of them and shows his love for her the healthiest. And then we have Maverick, who is a psychotic being, but shows his love in his own way. And he's also an outcast from the first 3 I mentioned because they also betrayed him. We'll see how it goes. And last but not least, we have Arcane Anatomy, the word anatomy in the title. All I did for this was type in anatomy in Kindle, in the Kindle app, and then choose romance, and it brought up Intro to Anatomy, Love 101 by Elle Nicole. We follow our main character, and he's been forced into teaching mechanics or small engines or something like that to people at night, as I think it's like his probation or something like that. It's either that or jail, and his club is, something's happening with them from what I understand from the synopsis. He's about to turn around the first night until he sees his overseer, who has a nice body and a big old red head of hair, and she teaches Anatomy 101. That's all I got. I'm excited to read it because it sounds pretty good, actually. So those are all the subjects and prompts that I need to read for August for the autumn equinox magical readathon, Orillium Academy, and I am so excited. I will catch you guys in August for the kickoff. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and want to follow my journey while reading, as well as my other content. Subscribe and join the family. We are slowly but surely growing here, and it makes my heart happy. I will catch you guys in August for the start of the readathon. Bye!